Okay, so ready for a deep dive into a story that's, well, it's kind of like a juicy tomato, but like with the side of bankruptcy.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. We were talking about AppHarvest, and they wanted to like revolutionize farming.
Yeah.
With those huge high-tech indoor farms. Imagine like robots taking care of perfect rows of vegetables, AI watching over every single leaf.
And yields so big they'd make your head spin. It
Exactly.
was a pretty captivating vision, you have to admit, especially with, all the worries about water, sustainability, and needing food all year round. AppHarvest seemed to have, well, all the answers.
They did, and investors totally bought into it. Their stock went way up to like $38.21 here in February 2021.
Everyone is buzzing about them.
They were the agricultural disruptor, the next big thing. But then things took a bit of a turn.
A bit of a turn, more like a nosedive. By 2023, their stock was down to just 7 cents,
Ouch.
and they have to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
So what happened? Was it all just hype? Or was indoor farming just, like, too hard to actually pull off? We've got a bunch of stuff to look at today. A YouTube video showing off their tech, their stock market data, even a news report on their money problems. Oh, and a peek into how those Dutch greenhouses are doing so well.
We're going to peel back the layers, see what made AppHarvest rise, and then, well, fall.
Perfect. Let's start with their tech. I mean, robots, AI, special lighting, it's all pretty cool. Like a farm run by algorithms.
It was impressive, yeah. And all those innovations got people really excited. For example, their water system was designed to use 90% less water than regular farms.
90%. That's incredible.
It is, especially with water becoming scarcer. That kind of efficiency is a big deal. They were also using a combo of sunlight and LEDs to help the plants grow, basically making it springtime all the time.
So they were giving those plants the VIP treatment.
Exactly. And don't forget the robots. They had them doing all sorts of things. Planting, harvesting, even checking the produce like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
Robots working right alongside the humans.
Can you imagine a robot like picking a tomato and saying, here, try this one, it's perfect?
Huh. And then there's the AI. They had tons of sensors, checking temperature, humidity, nutrients, plant health, everything. And all that data went into their algorithms, which could then change the growing conditions instantly.
A data-driven farm.
Yeah.
Wow. But if their tech was so good and their vision was so clear, why did it all go wrong? They had big greenhouses, investors were on board.
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Their technology was cutting edge, but actually turning that into a profitable business, well, that was tougher than they thought. And that's where we start to see the cracks, so to speak. Remember that news report? It mentioned a mismatch of capital and expectations. That's really important here. Setting up these high-tech farms, it takes a ton of money up front.
Yeah, I bet. We're talking millions, right?
Oh, at least tens of millions, maybe even more. And investors, they love the idea at first, sure. But indoor farming, it's still pretty new. No one's really proven it can work on a huge scale.
So it was a bit of a risk then.
Absolutely. It's risky. And as AppHarvest got bigger, the costs just kept going up. Energy, labor, even managing all those fancy systems. It got complicated.
It sounds kind of chaotic, like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle on a tightrope.
Well, maybe. But it does show how tough things were for them. Then there's the question of, do people actually want this? Sustainable, local produce is great, but will shoppers pay more for it?
That's true. If those fancy tomatoes are twice the price, I might stick with the regular ones.
Exactly. And that's when the money problems really started. AppHarvest was spending way more than they thought and not making enough to keep up.
So their plan wasn't really working out.
Not quite. And as things got worse, their stock price started going down, down, down. Investors lost confidence. That promising company, the one everyone was excited about, it was on the verge of collapse.
A classic story of reaching too high, maybe. But wait, before we say it's all over, isn't indoor farming doing okay in other places? Like we saw those Dutch greenhouses, they seem to be thriving.
You're right. The Netherlands is a leader in this. They prove that it can be done. They've got incredible yields, high quality produce all year round.
So it's not like the whole idea is a failure. Maybe AppHarvest just, I don't know, went too fast.
It's possible they might have overestimated how much people would buy or underestimated how hard it is to manage something so big and complex.
Like building a skyscraper out of, well, tomato plants.
Yeah.
Sounds cool, but might not actually stand up.
Yeah, good analogy. But their story also shows the bigger challenges with indoor farming. High costs, lots of energy needed, and you need experts to run it. All these things need to be figured out for it to really work.
It's a balancing act then. Innovation, efficiency, and making it all make financial sense.
Right, and that's what AppHarvest and the whole industry needs to solve. Can they make this tech work in the real world, where it's not just about cool greenhouses, but about customers and making money?
That's a big question. And speaking of questions, let's talk about the financial side of things. Chapter 11 bankruptcy, that sounds pretty final, but is it?
It's definitely a setback, but Chapter 11 doesn't always mean the company's done. It's actually a legal process where they get to restructure things, their debts, and how they operate, but they can stay in business.
So it's like a timeout, a chance to regroup.
You could say that. They've got some financing to keep things running while they come up with a new plan. The goal is to come out of this stronger, with a better way of doing business.
Like hitting reset, but with much higher stakes. But honestly, it's a long shot, isn't it? Turning things around like this is really hard.
It is. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But agriculture is always changing. New technologies are popping up, people's tastes are evolving, and we're all realizing we need more sustainable food.
So there's still a chance.
There's always a chance. And even if AppHarvest doesn't make it, their story shows us what can happen when you try to disrupt a huge industry. It's a story about ambition, new ideas, and how hard it is to make a big vision a reality.
And the story's not over yet. Who knows what'll happen next? Maybe they'll come back stronger. Maybe they'll become just a footnote in agricultural history, an interesting experiment that didn't quite work out.
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, they've shown us both the potential and the problems of indoor farming. And they've started a really important conversation about the future of how we feed ourselves.
It's crazy to think how AppHarvest's story kind of fits into this whole world of, like, agricultural innovation. We've talked greenhouses, but there's also vertical farming, growing crops in skyscrapers.
Sounds wild. Is that even like a real thing?
Oh, it's real. Vertical farms are popping up all over, especially in cities. It's like taking indoor farming and, well, going vertical, literally crops stacked in layers, using space super efficiently.
So like a high-rise farm. A green oasis in the concrete jungle. But wouldn't you need a ton of energy for all those lights? Yeah, you do need a lot of LEDs. It's a trade-off for sure. But the people who support vertical farming say the benefits are worth it. Less transportation, less impact on the environment. And some farms are using renewable energy, like solar.
Makes sense, especially with how much energy we waste moving food around. Growing closer to where people live could really change things.
It could. Less distance means fresher food,
Yeah.
and it could bring jobs to cities, too. It's all about rethinking how we do agriculture for a future that's more sustainable and, well, can handle whatever comes next.
Wow. So many cool things happening in agriculture right now.
Yeah.
High-tech greenhouses, vertical farms. It feels like we're on the edge of a revolution in how we feed everyone.
It's not all about tech, though. There's this movement called regenerative agriculture, focusing on healthy soil, more biodiversity, using fewer chemicals.
So it's like a more natural way of farming, going back to basics, but with modern ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Working with nature, not against it. And honestly, that might be the biggest lesson from AppHarvest. To be truly sustainable, you need innovation, but you also need to understand nature and have a solid business plan.
It's all connected. This has been a really interesting deep dive into ag tech. So much promise, so many obstacles. We've seen how new ideas can shake things up, how investors can make or break a company, and how the search for a sustainable future is leading to some amazing stuff.
And there's no single answer, right? The future of agriculture will probably be a mix of things. High-tech, A&D traditional, big farms, and any small farms, cities, A&D rural areas.
What matters is that we keep thinking, keep exploring, and keep working towards a food system that works for everyone and for the planet.
Couldn't agree more. And I hope everyone listening keeps learning about agriculture. Read about it, talk about it, maybe even grow something yourself. The more we know about where our food comes from, the better we'll be at creating a future that's both sustainable and delicious.
Great advice. So listeners, what are your thoughts on the future of food? Share your ideas, your hopes, your worries. Let's keep talking about it.
Until next time, keep those deep dives going.
And bon appétit.